Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Father Talks. I am here with the one and only Tony Berardo. A, it is what it is, man. A stay-at-home dad turned entrepreneur, founder of Human Dad. His mission is simple: highlight the authentic, messy, and hilarious parts of fatherhood while helping dads and content creators. We're going to talk about that. Content creators figure out how to build a brand to make a living as a stay-at-home dad. Tony, welcome to the show. Thank you. I am truly blessed to have you here today.
Michael, pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about yourself, what you do, and Mr. Stay-at-Home Dad. I love it. Hey, that's not making fun. I've been the stay-at-home dad. I tell people, do not sleep on being a stay-at-home parent. That is a full-time damn job.
Real.
There was a point in time where, I was like, my ex at the time, she was a stay-at-home parent, and I'm like, it can't be that hard. It can't be that hard, Then I became a stay-at-home parent for a little while. I'm like, holy shit. There's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here behind the scenes. So
that's gnarly.
But
yeah, well, again, thanks for having me on. I mean, luckily I'm not necessarily a full stay-at-home dad. I mean, I own my own company. I own a couple companies. I own two companies actually, which we'll get into. But my wife and I both are blessed enough to be able to work from home. So our daughter is 2.5. We just have one of these things running around for now. And, it's great because as we were kind of going through this process of trying to conceive, which, we could talk a little bit about, but long story short is it took us about 2 years through IUI and IVF to actually conceive and have a child. So it was a very long road, financially, mentally, physically, mostly physically, obviously for my wife as she dealt with the rough stuff there. But, I would say most important thing I want people to take away is like yourself, you have 9 kids, which is amazing. But, for whatever reason, and I'm big into fitness, which we could talk about too, but for whatever reason, I think in 2026, humanity itself has reached this very interesting point in our lives where we're essentially being poisoned by, not just the food we intake, but everything from microplastics to the screen time that we consume, mentally and physically, everything is against us. And I think that has a lot to do with infertility. Yeah. And you can research, papers on that on everyone's own free time. But I started diving a lot into this as we were trying to get pregnant, and I became obsessed with the topic. And I think because of that, once we finally got pregnant and, my wife gave birth to my beautiful, amazing world daughter. And once she came out, I was like, this is it, dude. As you know. Being a dad, that's it. That's my whole identity now. I don't care about anything else.
There's nothing, I'm telling you, it is singularly the greatest gift that we have is to be a dad.
Yeah. And, I say all that, word vomit that I just said, because that has kind of brought me to where I am now, which is, I've been a content creator for years, and I own my own content agency where I help brands scale their content, and I help people and brands host podcasts, and I also manage social media for a lot of businesses and brands. So I kind of do these various different things in the content world. And then on the side, I was like, how can I leverage my following and be able to make content about dad stuff, And that's when I was like, well, I could just make content, which I'm going to do anyway. But how can I really bring value? And I started to kind of look at the market a little bit. And I've always been passionate about having my own apparel line. And that's when I was like, how can I marry these together? And through a lot of research and, just checking in the gaps in the market, a lot of dad brands out there, which there's some fantastic dad brands out there. A lot of stuff I own still to the day. But a lot of the stuff is neutral colors. That's the same fonts. It's usually a cursive font. And it's, you follow these folks on social media, and they're, everything's great. Hey, you're a dad. Welcome. Community, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck that. That's not what dad life is. Dad life is messy. It's chaotic. It's, you're in the trenches. You're sweating. You're doing dishes, but also the kids running around and you're arguing with your wife. That's dad life. Right. So that's when I came up with the brand Human Dad, which is the foundation of it. Our mission statement is, human first, dad always. So we're building a community of like-minded dads that understand you're always a dad. That's your thing now, but take a step back and realize that you're human and you're going to make mistakes, and this shit is not pretty. And what you see on social media is not what it is. So our brand and the content that you see on social media, it's reflected
Right.
of that.
Okay.
And then, I was like, since I'm building this anyway, which we just launched 6 months ago, and I have this crazy photo shoot that I'm going to do next in a couple of weeks, which I'm super stoked about. Um,
Excellent.
but once I started doing this, I was like, okay, now how can I create content in the dad space? And that's when I came up with doing a lot of series to help dads twofold. Number one, be a stay-at-home dad and make money. And
Mhm.
number two, get tips and tricks that is easily digestible and not hard to remember that dads can actually figure out. So, and just kind of build the community that is focusing on those two pillars,
Okay.
and then hopefully just help dads in the process. So that's kind of my whole goal now
Right.
to help
Excellent.
dads. Yeah.
So, Tony, for first time dads meeting you, who do you introduce yourself to? Who's the person you are today?
So if I'm just meeting a dad,
Yep.
what am I? I
Yeah.
mean, I like to always say that I'm just a survivor.
Right.
I'm an innovator, and I'm in the trenches. I always have been, always will be. Where I'm just I'm very. A lot of people call me like stoic
Right.
and objective in that sense of how I portray myself, whether it's my podcast or my business. I'm always objective in that aspect. So I mean, I would just say that I'm a relatable dad that likes to get shit done.
Right. It's not a bad quality. Not a bad quality.
I don't
Um.
always get shit done, by the way. I'm not,
Yeah.
I
Listen.
make a lot of I make a lot of
I've got
mistakes, but I try.
I've got a list of get shit done.
There you go.
I'm slowly dwindling it to nothing, but
I
it's
love it.
still a list nonetheless.
That's my
So you
favorite.
went from working for a Fortune 500 company,
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah,
and so how does that work? So
yeah,
you go from a major company
yeah.
to doing your own thing from home.
That's right. Yeah, and I always encourage people too, if you are working for a company, if you don't like it, you need to find something else. But sometimes it's hard to get away from that stable
Right.
biweekly paycheck.
Yeah.
So what I did, I always had an exit strategy, which was do shit on the side, right, on the weekends and after
Right.
5 p.m. when I'm done with my corporate job, to focus as much time and energy as I can on making no money, but figuring out my passion and my hobbies. And that's when that's when I landed on content, whether that's
Okay.
making content for social media or doing my podcast, which I still operate and produce, which is fantastic. And I love doing that. It's probably my favorite thing that I like to do is my podcast.
Right.
But I was doing that on the side for a couple of years. And then as I'm working through these companies, the pandemic hit. And through no fault of my own, a couple things happened. Number one was one of the companies that I worked for realized that I wasn't 100% committing into their company.
Right.
I won't name them, but I've done podcasts about them before, but I've talked enough shit about them. But it's a big company. It's the number one energy drink in the world. But
Okay.
spoiler alert. But I ended up working with these guys, and they found out that I was like doing a podcast on the side after hours,
Yeah.
and they weren't having that. It's like, no, you can't do that. You have to commit 100%. So
But I am
they let me
committed
go.
100% when I'm at work. When
They
I'm
let me
not
go.
at work, these are my
Yeah.
hours.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
And they're also the type of company where if you have a coffee mug and an energy drink isn't in that coffee mug, they're not happy with it. Like you can't have coffee. You can only promote the energy drink that you work for. Yeah, it's that type of company.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So anyway, whatever. I mean, it kind of sucked because I was with them for over almost a decade. And I was big in the marketing department up there. But whatever, fuck them. They did me a favor. And then I worked for another company that actually paid me twice as much. And I had a bigger role, and I was so jazzed up about that role. I was like more excited about that than anything. And then probably about a year and a half, 2 years into the gig, I reported directly to the CMO. So it was literally like
Okay.
a couple below the founder.
Wow.
And the whole company went bankrupt, and they laid off everybody in just a couple weeks. So that sucked. So I was going, I thought I was going to be with that company forever, right? And I think that's what allowed me to kind of kick myself out the door of corporate America and start my own business. Because remember, during this whole time, whether I was with that company or with the company that went bankrupt, I was still doing my side hustles, the content, the podcast. So I was kind of like perfecting my craft. And then I was like, I'm just going to go all in because I'm doing this shit on the weekends and I'm like getting good. So why don't I just commit 7 days a week to it? And I did that. And now here I am almost 4 years later.
Okay.
and I've been on my own, and I continue to grow the business 2 times each year.
See, I love and see that's amazing because,
Yeah.
I started this podcast thing, man, a couple years ago, and
Nice.
it was literally something that I just said, you know what, I want to start podcasting. But then I didn't have like I was on at this point, I wasn't doing video, I was just doing audio recordings. So I'm sitting in my office talking to my damn self, and I wasn't feeling it.
Mm,
So I stopped doing it for just over a year, year and a half. I stopped doing it. Then a friend of my son's came back. He said, "Hey, will you come on my podcast with me?" I did it. I had a really good time. Then I had all this equipment sitting around. I said, "You know what? I'm gonna start doing it again."
nice.
And once it picked up this time, it's had a completely different feel. I'm doing something that I enjoy doing. That I
Why do you
do. Hmm?
Sorry to interrupt. Why do you think it was different the second time? Was it just your attitude towards it, or?
I think personally, I was in a better place mentally.
Mm, yeah,
you know,
sure.
and I took a little more pride in the work that I was doing. I sat down, I did my homework a little bit more, and
Mhm.
I really invested in getting better at it, you know, and like I've been a personal trainer, hell, 25 years,
Oh,
you know,
wow. We can dip
you
in
know,
that too.
oh
Nice.
yeah, and I talk to people anyway.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I talk to my clients on a regular basis. I get friends that, call me for, advice, and somehow or another, those conversations go from fitness to, personal stuff, and, how all these things affect them. So I'm literally doing this anyway.
Right. Why
So
not? Yeah. Why
why
not
not
record
do
it and give
it?
value?
Yeah. Yes. And,
Yeah.
hopefully, somebody else can get some benefit out of it.
That's 100% why I did it too, because I just love having conversations. I think the pandemic allowed me to understand a little bit more about, like, I mean, look at what we're doing now. It'd be cool to meet in person and do this in
Yeah.
studio, but what an amazing world where we could be anywhere. Like
Yeah.
I've had some really great conversations with folks in Australia and UK and China and just Tokyo. I just talked to a guy that was in Tokyo. Like, what a cool thing we could do where we could just have
Right.
conversations with people all over the world. And I've had some great friends that I've built some amazing relationships with over the years through this podcast, and I've never met them in person.
Right.
So,
And how amazing is that?
it's
Yes.
so cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a great medium for sure.
I've got a podcast guest that, just had on a couple of weeks ago. And it's funny because interviewing him, I didn't get, you know, for his personal life, I didn't get, some of the vibes that I did, you
Mm,
know, but we're now friends on, social media net.
right.
So now I see his personal life. He is a completely different guy than he interviewed as,
That's
you know,
funny.
very, very down to earth, and I hate to categorize people, but rap music was not something I thought, was in his forte. But, all of his videos that, that he posts about, his son wrestles and that, a lot of them have, a lot of hip hop in it. I
That's funny.
would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I make fun of him in that, but great guy, great guy. But he's another one that, he's taken, so we're kind of, into fitness and that. He has looked more at nutrition and everything, you
Mm,
know, to help his family. He had his youngest daughter's autistic, and she's nonverbal. And he said that what the family did as a whole was they took steps that they changed their diet,
sure.
and it helped his daughter, you know, with her communication, just he said it was the damnedest thing that he'd ever seen because she had began to communicate better, and his son, who had ADD, completely came off his ADD medication.
Just from eating right.
Just from said they eat zero processed food,
Love
they
that.
garden, all that stuff. And his son is a completely different person. And I think another
Crazy.
issue with him was he was having some mental distress, and they think that it was being caused by the ADD meds. Say
Wow.
like he was going through a bit of depression. But he said a year into this lifestyle change, kids are completely different. So
Yeah. That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I think fitness is probably another thing that got me passionate about starting the show. Mainly because again, we could dip into this, but I was a man, I was 19, I think, at the time when I started.
yeah,
I worked at LA Fitness and I was a personal trainer.
Okay.
for a few years, and got my certification, which is it's long expired by now.
Okay. Oh yeah.
But because I'm 40 now, so it's been a few years since I took some classes. But it was great to your point, just meeting with clients and just those little things like showing. I used to show up in the morning, used to train like 4 o'clock with my buddies, and then
Yeah.
my first client would be at 5 a.m. and I'd be done by like noon with my
Yeah.
clients. So then you got the whole day to just mess around and have some fun.
See,
And I was
that's
in
what
my
my wife.
20s, so that was perfect. And doing that brought me a lot of passion, a lot of love, not just for the industry, but just that human connection. And
Yeah.
well, unfortunately, as you know, especially if you're working for like a company, there's not a lot of money in it. Freelancing is the better route.
Is the better
But
way to go because
and
companies
I
should
yeah,
have
and I
money.
wasn't I wasn't doing that just because I didn't have the clientele base yet. But I was like, oh, what can I do? So then I started getting into marketing and a little bit of sales, and then I grew within the corporate ladder we mentioned. I always have had a passion for fitness, and I've always worked out, and I continue to do what I can. Like in my home garage, I do a lot of
Yeah.
contrast therapy, and I that was the kind of the beginning, the birth of my podcast, and like my content was trying to get humans to just be healthier. Like that was just taking the passion, showing you what I do. It might not work for you, but hey, follow these steps, and it might work. These protocols work for me; they might work for you. And then once I became a dad, as you know, my podcast went from like every week I'm talking about health, wellness, and productivity, and now
Right.
it's like 3 of the episodes are like health, wellness, productivity, and now one of them is always with the dad, where I shoot
Yeah.
the shit and talk about. So I think it's kind of morphed into that a little bit, but it's kind of a cool thing. You and I can relate a lot with this, which is there's a weird niche of dads on social media that probably aren't getting fed this information, which is a fit father. And that's what I want to continue to do like you are is instill how we can be fit, how we could be the best humans, but how we can be the best dads that take care of our bodies first. Because if you could take care of your body first, you could take care of your kid.
Right. Well, and
That's
then
the
the
key.
other thing is I always incorporated so my own physical health. I did a lot of exercising with my kids, so
Smart.
it never seemed like it was work. It was just something we were doing together. So
Totally.
like we the boys especially when they play football, they I would bring them to the gym with me, and we would and I
Awesome.
just we taught. It wasn't just about working out. It was teaching them why we're doing it.
The reason why. Sure.
And my girls are big softball players. My other daughter's soccer, and I stayed active through my kids because, hey,
Yeah.
I need to practice that. Can you come out with me? I'm like, okay, I just got home. Give me 5 minutes to change clothes. We'll go out front and do whatever it is you need to do.
Right.
And I was never in the in softball. My daughter was she was a great softball player, and I had to learn about it, because well, I can't coach her or help her if I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. And if I may ask, what were you saying to your kids when you were working out? Because you mentioned where you
But
want them to
literally,
understand.
we'd be in the gym. I explain to them the importance of hey, why are we warming up? What's the difference between do
Nice.
we want to do we need to heavily stretch before we work out, or do we need dynamic warm ups and everything?
Love
So
it.
so the boys all learn that stuff. That hey, I stretch. I hold long stretches after my training, and
Right.
we do dynamic stuff before, to get ourselves prepared for the workout. And, these are things that the boys carry, with them throughout their sports. And it showed. And it's not, they weren't, especially my two older boys, they were great athletes, they went
Hmm.
on to different things. But
Cool.
when they played their sports, they excelled because they knew why they did things,
Right.
you know. So
And the
when
discipline too. Obviously, that
yes.
helps.
Yeah. So when coaches asked them to do something, it was never any bitching and moaning because they
Sure.
understood why they were doing it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
Yeah, and one of the favorite things I do with my daughter, still at least 3 times a week now, is I do contrast therapy usually first thing in the morning.
okay.
Not so much sauna because I usually watch her in the morning and she freaks
Yeah.
out every time I get in the sauna by myself. And then obviously she's 2.5, so she ain't going in it yet.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
but one thing I do is I have a nice little ice plunge, and I hop in. I'm in Florida, so I got a chiller where it stays like 50 degrees, and I hop in there, and 3-4 minutes I'm in there, and I'm just kind of swimming around, and I'm
Yeah.
playing, and then here she is. She's not in it, but she'll bring bath toys and she'll kind of scoop the water and play around.
Yeah.
And she's been doing it since she's 1, since she was able to walk. She's been in there, so it's
Yeah.
like part of her DNA
Every day.
now where she
Yeah.
gets it. And I always, even though she couldn't talk at 1, even still now, I go, "Hey, sweetie, should we work out?" And she goes, "Ice plunge first." And I go, "That a girl," because she
Hilarious.
knows ice plunge, and then we, like you said, we do some dynamics. We warm
Yeah,
up a little bit, then we hit the kettlebells, and we end it strong with some stretching. So,
yeah,
and she's watching me the whole time. I got her these fake 3D printed weights
yeah,
where they weigh like 5 ounces. I don't know if
yeah.
you've seen those things.
I used to
And
have them for daycare.
that's cool. That's so cool.
I used to have them in a
Yeah.
daycare. So love it because my wife took pictures of them, in there working out. He's like, "Ugh,"
So fun.
it
Yeah.
weighed
Yeah.
next to nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it's great though. It's great to just get them in the motion. So now she went from like holding it, not knowing what
mm,
she's doing. Now she's doing like, swings with the
right,
dumbbells, like kettlebell swings. But she
awesome.
obviously, the form is not where it needs to be. She's 2.5,
Yeah,
but she's doing it. I'm like, this is so cool. And again, it's like those little things where it's not even about them getting the benefits because they're not going to. It's just about instilling that routine, whether that's working out, whether that's going outside and touching the grass in the morning, like whatever the routine is. I've realized the more you can get them immersed into a routine,
mm,
not only do they understand that, so they're going to carry that for the rest of their life, but they
right.
hold you fucking accountable.
Yes.
Like especially we do grounding first thing in the morning. Again, we're
Mm,
lucky we're in Florida, but we hop outside for sunset. And if
yeah,
we don't do it, no matter the weather, if it's rain or shine, she makes me go out there and touch
yeah.
grass. And some days you're exhausted, right? You don't want to do it. And she's
So
like,
you're the
"Daddy."
second person I've heard to talk about the grounding and whatnot. And I'm in Michigan, so I'm not going outside to step in
Sure.
nothing right now. It's cold as
Definitely
shit.
not right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is something I want to start incorporating, man. I have
Oh yeah.
heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, it'll change your life. And again, a lot of it could be placebo effect, but in my
Yeah,
opinion, if it's placebo, it's still going to work for you mentally, right?
yeah, in
Because we
long,
can
yeah,
we can rewire our brain to do a lot of shit. So,
right,
but the whole idea of grounding is it's a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, is the ground sucking energy into you to give you, to revitalize you? No, it's actually negative energy. So it
yeah,
similar to like a plant, it pushes negative energy into the soil, into the grass.
right,
Like your body is just all these nerves and these neurons that are just pushing through, and it goes right to your feet. And it's like once your feet know that it's touching earth,
yeah.
it just it
It,
releases.
I'm
It's a
eager
wild
as
thing.
hell to try this now. I swear.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
wild. Yeah.
and
I mean, and even if it's bearable out there in the snow,
mm,
I'm sure there's some science behind that to where even if it's not necessarily quote unquote grass, but
yeah,
even if it's just the earth, the snow is, it's part of the earth, right? Like
yeah.
it's an ancestral thing that we have. If you walk out there and just do it. I would love to live in a place like Michigan because I wouldn't have to have a chiller for my ice bath. I would just hop out.
Listen,
I
I
would have
put
a
I
big.
put my cold plunge in the garage.
Oh,
Okay,
you got one? Yeah.
yeah. So and mine's just one of the little plastic ones. You throw ice in there or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Whatever. That's perfect.
But listen, so I left it in there and it got cold.
I bet
Okay, man, it was so goddamn. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now.
it sucks.
I got partway in there. I was like, hell no,
Yeah.
hell no. It was so cold. Like by the time
It was
both
probably
feet,
below freezing, I would imagine, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the time I got both feet in there, my ankle bones hurt so bad. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're
I'm
not
out.
gonna do that today.
Yep.
So
I'm
we'll
out.
we'll wait for it to warm back up.
I mean, not for nothing. I've been doing it for, I don't even know, probably, like you, years, but every time I do it, I hate it. It's the worst
Yeah,
thing I do every day.
yeah.
It's the
You feel
worst.
no, I will say that especially during when the weather's tolerable, I feel better afterwards. I feel
Oh, for
much
sure. The benefits are great, but during, it's the worst. It's the worst.
horrible.
Yeah.
Me and my son are going back and forth, seeing who can sit out there the longest. I mean, not gonna lie to you, the guy's gotten me a couple times and whatnot. That's sheer will, I guess. But
But he's
yeah,
young. He
yeah,
gets it. Yeah.
he's 18, so
Yeah. It's not fair. Yeah.
So let's talk about well, honestly, you know what? Let's talk about this clothing brand.
Oh, right
I'm
on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, man. I'm curious.
Thanks.
And again, uh, I know a couple of guys who are in the same realm. We're all trying to figure it out and everything.
That's right.
What what made it important for you, to add the clothing, in addition to, the podcasting and social media?
Yeah. Well, it was a couple things. So number one, like as a dad, you always kind of look for like, I want some cool dad swag.
Yeah.
And again, there's some great brands out there, not knocking any brands. Um, but for us, there was a couple things. So we really wanted to make sure we stood out in two ways. Number one, the quality. So we wanted to make it like this is one of our hats. So the
Okay.
quality, we have a couple different lines, but this one is probably our staple, I would say, our top seller. And we also have a tan edition that does quite well. But it's sweat resistant. Like the material on it is very
Okay.
thin, so no matter what climate you're in, like again, I'm in Florida, right? So I think of like golf, summer,
You're
beach.
rubbing
Like
it in.
I
Well,
mentioned like
that, you
12,
know what?
12 times.
Hey, no, actually, I shouldn't say that because it is. I hear you guys got a cold snap down there in Florida.
Oh, dude, I'm
So,
freezing my ass off right now. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's great. It's great though. I wish it came during Christmas. It would have been a lot better.
right.
During Christmas, it was like 90 degrees. But but I always think about like how can we like golfing, right? Going to the
Yeah.
beach. Like you want a nice hat that's breathable and
Yeah.
that looks really dope, no matter what you're wearing, right? Whether it's a golf attire or a nice outfit if you're out to brunch or whatever. So I always I thought about that. So that was the main thing for us was the quality. So we're there, I think, from what people have told us. And then the other thing is just community. Like that's the staple. That is our anchor is the community that we've been able to build. Oh, are you all right, Mike?
Oh my God! Sorry about that, everybody.
And our brand is so exciting it makes people cough. That's
Yeah,
how.
went down the wrong pipe. Sorry.
No, you good, brother. I just cranked out my post workout, so it went down the wrong pipe about 10 times. So I'm with you.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, for us, it was the comfortability part was the big thing. And then I think we're there. And then the second part is just community, which is our anchor. And, how can we build a community of like-minded dads that really focus on one core value, which is
Right.
you are imperfect. That's our value. And I think that is more relatable than I think any other dad brand out there, personally. Because we're not trying to be the best dad brand. We're not going to it's just me and a couple dads. Like we're not a multi-billion-dollar company like a lot of these other folks. So we're not going to be the best dad brand, I don't think, but we are going to be the most honest one. So everything from our content to the clothing that we wear, the shirts that we have on our backs, everything like one of our shirts says sleep deprived and still alive. So that's the type of like we don't have shirts that say best dad or number one dad, right? Because that's bullshit. You're not the number one dad, right? Because it's hard. You're going to make 10 mistakes today. Yeah. So again, that's what's rooted in our core value is, and I thought that was very important to us because A, I wanted to wear cool shit, but also B, like I wanted to represent being a dad because I just love that role. And I think it's really important to probably the most important role that you're going to have is being a dad. So I really wanted to make sure that dads could not only be a part of a community where we can help each other and be there to support, but also you're going to have some dope swag as well. So that's kind of how it all came together.
And there's not, well, there is rather. There's all kinds of corny dad stuff,
Sure. Yeah.
but nobody ever makes the, number 2 dad shirt.
Sure.
Yeah. Runner up dad.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's depressing. It's funny as hell.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's relatable, right?
Yeah. Second best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, and me personally, I'm probably a little morbid, but that to me would be funny.
Yeah.
And I think more dads, that's the stuff we care about.
That's right.
That's believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
And that's kind of where we're at in terms of content. I thought it was going to be easy as well because that's just kind of how I am anyway. And the dads that I partnered up with and hang out with and a lot of the creators that we've been able to partner with, they all share that same belief. So, again, I always say human dad's not for everybody. It's if you don't really get the brand, you might not understand the messaging, but I think it's going to resonate with a lot of dads. So I'm just super excited about the launch and I'm very grateful for what we've been able to do so far. And we got some big plans here in the coming months.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
Thanks, man.
So what mistakes did you make along the way, while building the brand?
There was a lot. I mean, I'd probably say the big thing is trying to do everything myself.
Right.
When I first launched the brand, I designed the logo. I did the social media, the marketing, the email blast. I designed the website. I mean, literally every single inch of it. The orders, the fulfillment, customer messages, support.
Ooh.
It was just too much. Yeah. And by the way, this was a side hustle when I first did it. Like I still have my content business and I'm also a father. So it was like, There's
That's a
only so
lot.
many there's only so many hours in a day. So I started to outsource a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to like designing and developing our brand identity and our logo and stuff. Worked with this really cool guy from Rose Garden Creative, which kind of helped us put this design together. Which again, we spent a lot of months kind of looking at the market and figuring out what other
Right.
brands are,
Okay.
and we wanted to be the opposite. So we
Mhm.
looked at all the dad brands out there that have like that cursive
Right.
dad logo. Every brand, I mean, everything from Barstool Sports to a lot of these big $1 million companies. And the quality is great. Again, I've had these stuff, but they're all the same. They're all just kind
Right.
of sucking on the tit of dad apparel.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. We want to create something that you're going to love, but we also want to create something edgy. Like we want to cuss in our social media ads. Like we do not give a shit about
But
trying to be
that's who we are.
perfect.
Yeah, but that's generally how we are as dads.
That's right.
You know, we're
That's
we're imperfect people. We generally say what's on our mind,
right. Hmm.
and it's usually, hey, well, fuck them if they can't take a joke.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
100%, man. Yeah. And
I'm the
again, and that's also another thing. Picking back off that point is not only we aren't perfect, but typically we don't talk about it. The
right.
one downfall I think with men, not specifically dads, but just men in general, we just don't like to like talk to each other, and we don't like to share our feelings. And
Right.
that's also one thing I wanted to do with Human Dad is create this community where, hey man, you can go to our newsletter, and every week
Yeah.
we give tips on how to be a dad. We give funny stories. We
Right.
do all these things where moms kind of have their own groups, right, to follow.
Right.
But now dads can learn about sleep training in a
But
funny way that's relatable.
these are the things that we need. And
Yeah.
there's, and again, I just had another guest on right before you, and this is one of the things that we were talking about, that we have no resources to talk.
Right.
I've talked to guys who have been friends with other guys for 20 years, and you've known this person this long, and there are still things that you don't share because you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's too personal. You don't want to seem like, you don't want to seem weak, whatever have you, you know, and but all of that starts at an early age with us,
Right.
and I've said this before that, boys are taught to control their emotions 5 minutes after, we can start expressing them,
That's right. Totally.
so having platforms like this and having an environment, you know, that guys can go and maybe share stories, or just even if we can't share a story, we can read something that might help us out,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
the goal. That's the goal, man.
you know, so like, I'm a dad and I'm an asshole,
That's right. And you're
you
not the
know,
only one, which is great.
right. Both can be true, you know, so,
Yeah, man.
um, but, and again, so with me, fitness is, well, roll us over into fitness a little bit. I have used fitness as a way to deal with a lot of my personal issues. So,
Totally.
I go to the gym. I get up at 4:30. I'm at the gym by 5 generally. My gym's like 5 minutes from my house. And that's where I go to deal with all my shit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So no matter what stress I'm dealing with, no matter what heartache I'm dealing with, no matter what it is, I try to sort through that in the hour and a half, 2 hours that I'm at the gym. And if I can't fix it in that time, I'm not dealing with it after I leave the gym.
Totally. Same.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's something I want to try to share with more guys, for a while, after my deployment, I drank a lot. Just trying to deal with all the issues, trying to get reacclimated to being home and all that.
Uh-huh.
I drank a lot of, more than, I've ever really admitted to. And there was no help,
Right.
because I couldn't tell, my chain of command, because I was afraid that it would affect me, later on getting promoted. I didn't want to go for mental health because I was afraid it was going to be a black mark on me moving forward in my career.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to my wife because I was afraid she wouldn't understand. I
Right.
sure as hell can't tell my kids, and so the gym became that place. I would go to the gym and sort through things.
Kind of like an
And
outlet.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and well, the gym didn't take care of it all. I did end up having to get, some mental health care, but
Uh-huh.
thank God for the gym, you know?
For real. Yeah, man. I'm with you 100%. I think it's a great escape. I mean, even just on a daily basis, if you get a little angry, as a
Yeah,
dad, sometimes you get you don't know how to self-regulate. So,
Yeah,
like, sometimes you're gonna get these feelings where you're just like, you're snapping your neck, and you're like,
yeah,
take a couple
yeah,
deep breaths, and you're like, "You know what? I need to go do some kettlebell swings."
yeah,
And then you get done, and you're like, now you can have a conversation, you know?
yeah,
And
and
and that goes whether you're a dad or not. Just I think in general, it's a great release. I mean, studies obviously have proven this, right? But like
right.
to the
To the
layman's,
limit.
it's the hit of dopamine that you're getting, right? It's
Yes.
these endorphins that just are all about it. And I think that's one thing that we're not really focusing too much on, which is even if it's just 10 minutes a day, doing swings, doing push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever you're doing just to get your body moving, specifically in the
Right.
morning, there is going to be residual benefits to that throughout the day, you
Yeah,
know?
and again, I try to tell people, man, a buddy of mine, he just started back into the gym. He
Nice.
hadn't he hadn't been working out 25 years,
Wow.
he had really been in the gym, and he had a realization that he's at the age that his father was when he passed away.
Whoa, that's heavy.
And he's like, Mike, man, I gotta do something because I want to be here for my kids. My dad didn't
Yeah.
get to spend as much time with his grandkids as he should have. In fact, his dad passed away when his second kid was born. So he never
Whoa.
met them.
Ugh. Dude,
And
that's a big why. If
yeah,
if you got
he
kids, that's a why.
Yeah, he came to the realization on his own that he
Yeah.
wanted to be there, for his kids, because he didn't want to repeat the same, thing that his dad was doing. You know, what his
Mm,
dad, and his dad, and what is that? His dad wasn't a bad person, man. He just worked a lot,
sure.
and he didn't make his personal health a priority.
Yeah.
And I think men, as men, a lot of us neglect our personal health because we got work, we got family responsibilities, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And we forget that our physical health is equally as important as all those other things. Because
Yeah.
if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to be here for those other things?
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's probably, if not one of the most, but maybe the most important thing is your
Right.
health. Because, similar to like if you're on a airplane, they tell you to put your they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, right?
That's right.
So they want you to do that because if you put your oxygen mask on first, well, now you can actually help.
Somebody else.
So, I mean, that's the key.
So I was not being really philosophical when but I was listening to this guy talk about Robin Williams. And it falls along the line of doing everything to take care of other people and not making yourself a priority. And
Mm,
in this conversation, they were saying, you know, can you believe Robin Williams killed himself? This man hung himself and left himself for his family to find. And everybody was
wow.
going chiming in, yeah, so thoughtless, can't believe he did that. And then he brought it back around and said, now, Robin Williams, this world-known actor, funny guy, he made us all laugh, he made us all happy. He did all this stuff for his family and hung himself. What didn't he do?
Mm,
He never made himself a priority. He
mm.
never made himself a priority. He never made his mental health, his needs a priority, and it cost him his life.
That's a great way of looking at it.
And this, when I heard that, I think this is another reason why what I'm doing now is so important to me because so many of us are doing exactly that same thing.
Yeah, man.
We're
Yeah,
never making we're never making our personal health, our personal issues a priority. Our demons are chasing behind us every place we go, and we never really take the time to focus on getting better.
that's right. Yeah, that's a
So,
huge misnomer for
yeah,
sure. Hey, do you mind if we pause for 5 seconds? I think you nailed it. I think mental health is not just one thing that dads struggle with, but yeah, just men in general. I
yeah,
just think we got to get better at putting ourselves first. And same thing goes with women as well. I tell my wife all the time because she struggles with this. But if you, the woman, the other person in the relationship, if you're not focusing on yourself as well, if you're not taking your fitness seriously, and if you're not going out for walks or doing
yeah,
something, you're putting down your phone and you're not doom scrolling. If you're taking care of yourself first, you're going to be a good wife. Just like dad, if he does the same thing,
exactly.
put down your phone, focus on fitness. Maybe you do it together, great. But if you can't do it together, do it separately. Because if
Right.
you each are selfish and you each take care of yourself
Yeah.
individually and you each
Mm,
are stronger individually, your
yes,
marriage is going to
sir.
be stronger. You're going to be better parents. And then overall, high bonus, you're also going to like instill that discipline and routine into your kids, which
Right.
is going to be a residual benefit for them. So
Outstanding.
yeah,
So, Tony, I know you got to get going here. So, where can listeners find your work, your podcast, and everything that you're building?
thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, you can head to my Instagram. It's at the Berardo, but it's also the Berardo at TikTok, YouTube,
Right.
all social media. You can find me there, and that's where I post everything. I post my human dad. I post my podcast. My podcast is Humanity and Hashtags, and
Okay.
the apparel brand is humandad.com. And if you've noticed in my content, the human element is there, and it's been there for a while.
Right.
And I do that intentionally, not necessarily because AI is taking over, even though that's a big bonus. But it's also because for decades I've always kind of been the stoic, objective person that uses human a lot when I talk
Yeah.
to people, and that's kind of like my whole identity is. I think the more we can focus on the human element, whether that's like through conversation or just even using critical thinking skills and just saying to yourself that the other person you're talking to or the other person you're talking shit about, if you can just understand that they are human as well and they do make mistakes, I think just without question, you're going to understand things a little bit better, right?
Right.
Because if you look at someone that you are driving down the road with and they cut you off, instinctually you're like, first thing, what a dick, what an asshole. But take a step back instead of getting angry and just say, that guy was a baby. He was grown inside a woman and he eventually came out as a little baby and
Yeah.
he was born and within 18, 20, 30 years, he became this human that he is today. And
Right.
we all started in that
Same
thing.
situation. Yeah.
So in that process, a lot of shit probably happened to this guy.
Right.
Maybe he is rushing because he has to take a shit. Maybe maybe he just got, divorced by his wife.
Right.
Maybe his boyfriend just cheated on him. Like there's 1,000 things that you don't know.
Right.
And I think if we just bring ourselves down to that human level, that's what I try and instill in our listeners and in my content, which is
That's outstanding.
yeah, we're all going to make mistakes. Just take a beat, relax, and understand we're all human.
Last thing, you said that you guys you have a marketing company.
Yeah, it's a content agency, but we
Okay.
focus on we do have marketing elements to it, and that also is on my social media.
Okay.
But I've kind of put that on the back burner a little bit, where I've delegated some folks to do that,
Hey.
just because it's a lot of work. But
Right.
we focus on creating. So if you're a brand out there listening, or if you're a person that wants to maybe grow your brand or podcast, reach out to me in the DM and we can talk about that, because I've specialized in social media for over a decade. So
Yes.
if anybody needs help kind of growing their social or managing their social media, my agency does that as well. So,
Excellent.
yeah, man.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Berardo, thank you very much for the show. Man, I appreciate your time. Please, we got to talk some more. I know a bunch of people who could probably use your help and your insight.
Be great, man.
Actually, I may give you a call myself. Now,
Please do, man. Happy to
hey,
connect with you anytime.
I'm not too proud. So, hey, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. We will talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Michael, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, Tony. Take care.
All right.